Hello, and welcome to a look at Rambo First Blood Part 2 for the Commodore 64, a game that was released by Ocean. As you can likely gather, this game is somewhat based on the film by the same name, and the plot in the film is that John Rambo goes into Vietnam looking for evidence of prisoners of war being present, and he's being instructed not to engage in any form of conflict. But of course, you can imagine that quickly turns out not to work out. And yeah, the film is an action rom kind of thing, and it's entertaining for what it is. In the game, you are given instructions not to engage the enemy, but as soon as the game starts, you're going to be under attack from all angles and sides and directions, and you have very little option but to fight back. Thankfully, being Rambo, of course, you have a certain arsenal at your disposal that you can use to actually fight back. And once we get back into the game, I will go to the interface very quickly. Button left, score. On top of that, energy, which will deplete when you get hit. And in the middle section, you have your weapons available. Your weapons include your knife, and of course the very famous Rambo. Ha! I made it funny. Maybe I didn't. But the bow that was in this film made the trademark of the character Rambo, which can be used to fire off normal arrows, but also arrows with an explosive tip attached to. Later on, you will get your hands on a machine gun with some hand grenades and a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. All of them having infinite ammunition, so you don't have to worry about running out of anything you pick up. The game is sort of divided into three subsections, whereas in the first section you have to locate the enemy base and find evidence of the existence of prisoners of war, and then locate a helicopter. Once you have located the helicopter, you have to fly back to the base and rescue the remaining prisoners of war, and return to the helicopter and fly home to your base. On the way back to your base, there will be an unpleasant surprise awaiting you, which, yeah, you will see for yourself later on. Let's cover the technical side of things. From a graphical point of view, when it comes to the backgrounds and trees and buildings and all that kind of stuff, I think it's about par for the course for a game of this type, and a game from 1986. The main character definitely feels like that's where all the graphical effort has been put in, because it doesn't require an awful lot of imagination to associate the character you control with the character of Rambo. The enemies are very generic and feels a bit throwaway-like, but I suppose they are only there to shoot at you and be shot at by you, and of course the amount of them being present on the screen justifies that they are a bit bland in their creation. There are also two helicopters in this game, and in my honest opinion concerning those two is even that they are but ugly. Feel free to disagree. Sound effects wise, nothing really stands out as being unique in any way, shape, or form, but I do find that the sound of the bow being shot sounds a bit like someone blowing into a beer bottle. The musical side of things, and that is likely what this game will be most remembered for by people in general, is very decent all round. The title music and game over music and that kind of stuff is a bit so-so, but the in-game tune is very memorable and fairly well done, and yeah, it suits the game and fits the game and fits the character and scenario and all that kind of stuff perfectly fine. The controls, you see Rambo using the joystick, and thankfully the controls are very, very responsive. When you shoot, you can shoot angled in the direction you're traveling. So if you're moving up, you can shoot straight up or angle to the sides, and if you move to the side, you can also angle your shots sideways, down and up. Switching weapons requires you to hit the spacebar, which is par for the course, but it doesn't come without its own issues, which I will come back to when we do a summary of this game. You have the choice between music or sound effects, and you have to hit the S key in order to switch between them. But you have to do that for every single game, because the game will default to music. So if you prefer the sound effects more than the music, then every single time you start a new game, you will have to hit the S key. The game gives you various different weapons, as I have mentioned, but you only will want to use 3 of them, and one of them you want to use twice. You need to use the knife in order to free the prisoners of war, but for the rest of the time you want to use the explosive arrows. The reason is that they can remove obstacles like trees and buildings, and that is vital for having any chance of progressing and surviving more than 5 seconds in this game. And that is where having to use the keyboard to switch between weapons and to disable sound effects or music, whatever you want to do, a bit of a daunting thing, which it shouldn't be, because as soon as the game starts, there will be a bucket load of enemies on the screen, and they will fire at you from all directions. Their phasing is completely irrelevant. Their shots can leave their guns on their ears or their butts, and someone decided to equip them with rapid-firing sniper rifles, so they can shoot incredibly quickly, but they can also shoot incredibly far. So trying to outpace or outdistance the shots being fired at you is a bit of a roll of the dice, coin flip kind of thing. To make things even more interesting, of course, the enemy shots can ignore terrain. So while your shots will be stopped by various different objects, the enemy's shots won't, meaning that if you stand still for any length of time, you are likely getting obliterated in no time flat. That doesn't make it particularly enjoyable to play. When I pop into a game with a difficulty of this type, I always wonder why it is made in such a way, and it is usually an indication of the fact that once you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you end up doing what you're supposed to be doing, there won't be an awful lot of game to actually play. And that turned out to be the case when it comes to this game as well, which is not the first, and likely not a last either. What really bugs me about this game is that it's not a bad game. Tone down the difficulty level a bit, give it 4 or 5 levels, 4 levels to explore, to fight enemies, to blow up buildings and all that kind of stuff, and it would have been a perfectly acceptable and likely enjoyable action type of romp. But as it stands, it is a frustration fest beyond belief, and I'm very, very surprised that I managed to make this video without taking a bite off my desk or putting my hand through my monitor. Yeah. That note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.